Joining me for more insight is Andalusia Knoll. She's a journalist based in Mexico City and has reported extensively on FARC. Andalusia, how much of a setback is this for that 2016 agreement?
I think this is very disheartening for the Colombian population. Many, those that did believe in the peace accords and did believe that this was an end to the 50-year war. But I think it's also important to note that it did not come suddenly. People did know that Ivan Marquez had gone into the jungle and been out of the public sphere for the past year. And also there has been an alarming number of human rights defenders and indigenous leaders that have been assassinated. We're talking about hundreds of people assassinated in the past 3 years. So I think that people perhaps are very alarmed that members of the FARC have taken up arms again, and also said that they perhaps make alliances with members of the ELN. But I don't think that many people thought that the peace process was going well and that the country had really returned to peace, as hundreds of people have been assassinated.
Well, Ivan Marquez in that video and his allies basically accused the Colombian government of violating the terms of this agreement. They said Colombia has betrayed the peace deal. What does that mean exactly? What is it that they're so angry about?
I think that one of the things that he did mention was that they can't have a peace accord if there's not the basic right to life. And many of the things that he did also mention were kind of the reason that the FARC was formed in the first place was, the right to work, the right to health, many basic rights that he is saying that they have not complied with. I think based on both the violence that in many of the areas where the FARC did operate before, now criminal groups have operated. There's still a lot of drug trafficking occurring. And also it is for the thousands of members of the FARC, the government had agreed to help them in the transition to becoming a part of civil society, and many of them have lived in like 24 different kind of reintegration camps across the country, which are supposed to end this in the next few days. So I think part of it also is saying that what was promised to the FARC of a reintegration of society, also to be a viable political party, that they have not complied with that, and that the Colombian people have not been able to live in peace.
Well, Duque and his supporters say they're not going to carry out kidnappings or ransom. They want to have a dialogue. Does anyone really believe?
Duque was elected last year on kind of a turn from what Santos had done with many years of dialogue with the FARC, and has taken a much harder position on them, and also tried to curtail many of the agreements that were part of the peace accords. But I do believe that he probably has to come to the table with the FARC, because otherwise it would be seen as a further disaster of his government, which many people have been disillusioned by. But the question is, what will happen? The peace accords were not something that happened overnight. They were years and years of agreements and dialogues that took place in Havana, and that it's not something that they could just, all of a sudden recreate, or who knows how they will actually be able to come to terms now.
And Andalusia, quickly, where do we go from here?
I think that also going, with the leader Timochenko, who said that he is still that 80% of the FARC or 90% of the FARC are not with Ivan Marquez, and that they are not going to be taking up. I believe in the peace process, but also many civil society groups have been analyzing the violence that has been occurring, and that the peace accords have not been enough, and they need to analyze on a deeper level what is happening in rural Colombia with all these communities where violence is still happening, and that there are criminal groups that have occupied the place of the FARC. So I think it's important to go beyond just the peace accords and see what will happen with the FARC and with Duque, but also see what is happening with civil society, with indigenous leaders, and with activists.
All right, we'll leave it there.